This is Ash with Wizard's Respite. This is Wizard's Respite Sanctorum, the show that we talk about all things TTRPG. And as always, I am not alone. I am here with Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. Zach, what's going on?
Hi everybody. Hi, I'm Zach with Old Man Gaming, Wizards co-host for this fine, delightful podcast. And I just want you to know, when Wiz says the subject matter, I had nothing to do with the choice of it. It was all up to Wizard, not me, not me. It's all on Ash.
That's right. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited about tonight because tonight we're talking about the single mod game that is the foundation for the live stream we've been playing together for the last how long has it been, like 6 7 8 months?
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, you consider it's bi-weekly, and we just did episode 12, so that's
We
at
got
least
some.
yeah, that's at least a few months in there. At least a
Yeah,
few.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you're saying, this is my idea. It is my idea because I'm excited about this game. I want to talk about this thing.
I gotta try and be humble while also being a narcissist. That's my brand, man. Uh,
Fine balance. Fine
it
balance.
is. It's hard. It's hard. You stray too much into one or the other. Usually, I'm straying too much into narcissism, so I've got to pull that back. But I thank you
Well,
for this. This time is really appreciated for humble and lowly.
I'm really excited about it. Like I've said, I'm doing a deep dive review on it, and the more I dive into it, the more I'm excited about it. Because you and I, we've done this before on the show. We love to get into the meat of the game system, the
Hmm.
the math, what makes it function,
Yeah.
and how those elements make it fun.
Yeah.
Um, so I can't wait to dive into this with a content creator of a game that I've been just having a blast with over the last several months, and it's just been great. So let's dive into it.
Sure. I
Let
do
me. I'm gonna start.
before you ask your first question. I do want to say you're also a content creator of that content. I mean, you're on the show, so in fairness, you are helping. You didn't write the game, but you are helping with the content part of it, without a doubt.
That's true. I will. I
Show the
will
show would
claim
not be the
ownership
same
over.
without Alfred Whitecastle. That is for sure.
I will claim ownership of Alfred Castle and all of his dastardly hijinks.
Yeah. Yeah, I
um.
couldn't have three better role players in that group. In all fairness, just the three of you have crafted such crazy, fun characters to then have them interact with each other is great. So I think that helps personally.
It really has been. I will also attest to that. My fellow players have been just phenomenal and so much fun to play with. They're fun
Yeah,
to riff off of, and it just makes a fun game, fun show. It's a fun system. Um, and yeah, I think that's a big part of the success. And like one thing like to point out right away is we're playing Astral Drive. That's the name of the live stream. That's the setting. That's sort of like the mechanic behind the settings world. That's part of the lore of the setting. But the single mod game isn't Astral Drive. It's a more of a core system that Astral Drive can be built off of, um, as a setting, as a world, right?
yeah. Poor branding on my part to really do Astral Drive, the stream, and call it Astral Drive, and then release a game called Single Mod and tell everybody it's the same thing. Yeah, the idea, the idea behind Single Mod, and what I was trying to still illustrate, and I don't really feel like I illustrated it well, is that you could create any world in this game. Not to get ranty, but I've been playing, or to get unhumble, which, as I said, I don't want to stray into the narcissism too much, but I've been playing role playing games for 30 plus years. Since I was 13, I'm 42. So you guys do the math. I don't have the brain capacity.
There's a plus.
There's something, and most of the games that I played, I've done homebrews of. I've also played many systems as well. But one thing that always happens when I'm playing the system is I don't like something about it, and I find that the system ends up being really hard to change on the fly. because they're very insulated systems, especially the systems back in the 80s and 90s, the systems we grew up on, which we've talked about on this podcast before. You know, your D&D, your Palladium, your White Wolf, they're hard things to just be like, okay, new rule. You know what I mean? They're very insulated. We didn't have Fate Core, guys, when we grew up. We didn't have cool journaling games like Last Tea Shop. We really had much more strict systems, very insulated number-based systems. So
Yeah.
I'm getting talking too much, but the thing behind single mod that I was trying for is it's kind of, I wanted to capture the build aspects that you love about those games, but I wanted to capture it in a way that character creation is fast and quick, and I wanted to capture it in a way that combat is fast and quick and brutal. And I also wanted to make sure all of this was in a package that was extremely easy for a game master to go, new rule, or changing this up, or adding this. So the system is very rules light, with a heavy emphasis on role-playing. However, the one thing about rules light systems that I would say mine has that others don't, like, say, Fate, is it has a build system. There is a build system for the stats and skills that equal up to perks, which are kind of like your powers and abilities, cantrips if you're a D&D player, those kind of things, which this system still has, but it still has it in the package of the character creation is quick and easy. You know, I did a tutorial video on my channel where I created a character from start to finish in 15 minutes. I dare you to go out and find a game where you can create a character in that amount of time. And that's with me doing the tutorial. If I just sat down and created a character from scratch numbers wise, I could probably have one done in about 8-10 minutes. For a game master, that's huge. Think about all those NPCs you run into when the players just decide to follow a cat because they think the cat matters, and you've got to figure out how to get them back on the right track, and you need an NPC. Bam! It's only going to take you... Everybody take a piss break, and then bam, you've got an NPC character ready, lined up, ready to go. And that's kind of one of the strengths of this system that I keep kind of marketing to people, is it's really made for homebrewers, really made for game masters, and it still has the build aspects that people like.
Yeah. I mean, even last Astral game, I would remember, like, at the climax of my character's scenario that I was walking into, we kind of, like you said, threw you a little bit for a loop there, walked into a scenario neither one of us was expecting, and you're just like, okay, I need to have what was he called again? It wasn't a cleric, it was a
shaman.
Shaman. I need to do a shaman on the fly.
A space Viking shaman. Yeah, really. It took me like 2 minutes. I always have some index cards just to show everybody if I've got one here. Yeah, I got one here. To show everybody how easy it is, while I do have a character. Hey guys, when I brought over the thingy, I hit a button that stopped the recording, so we were talking there for a couple of minutes without realizing we weren't recording it at all. So what I was saying is, while we do have character sheets that is in the book, this right here is an NPC, a fully fleshed out NPC for the game, front and back, skills and stats and perks, and that's really how easy this is. And what I was kind of going for is to make it that easy access while still having a player be able to get a build system that makes them feel that sense of accomplishment and power that they like out of it too.
Yeah, and like, I don't want to, like, it's hard. These things are always so tempting to just really just tear apart all of the mechanics.
Right.
But I don't want to, like, reveal too much. I want people to read the game. I want them to know, the type of thing it is, but without giving away the, what's the phrase? The cow before the cart or whatnot.
Cow before the cart. Yeah. I mean, I get that. I even in my tour videos, I go pretty in depth into the system, but I don't say everything.
Right.
Because it's only $6. It's only $6 on itch. I just want to say that.
Yeah, and that's a $6 for, like, what was it, like 43 pages?
Yeah.
Of a very Like, and this is the thing about this game. Like, it's very well crafted. It's very concise and it's very logical. I mean, there's a lot to unpack with all of that from a game design standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a home brewer's dream. Um, you have a very easy system to logically think through, put together. It's not confusing. You're not getting lost in all of these semantics and words and doubling down on what this situation might mean in this situation and it's all logical. It makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, this rule makes sense, so you don't even really have to try to remember it. It just sticks with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you. I don't want this to sound like an infomercial, but thank you. I appreciate it. That was kind of the idea. The idea of the system is as few rolls when it comes to combat and stuff, as few rolls as possible. Like, because really the thing that slows you down is rolls and rules. Those are the two things that like slow a combat down. It's why D&D is so slow, because there's tons of rolls and there's tons of rules.
Yeah.
Same with Palladium. You know, Palladium's a little bit snappier in my opinion, but I think on a whole, those are the things that really bring down a combat system. So what I tried to do in this is every roll is a stat plus a skill. Those stats and skills, none of them can be above 5. It's between 1 and 5. A stat plus skill plus a d20. And then in combat, if you beat somebody, how much you beat them by is the base amount of damage you're dealing. So there's no damage rolls. There's no, like, whatever. There's extra damage that certain weapons do. But that way, everything is off that one single roll and that one single modification of the dice.
Right. And the other cool thing about that, and you and I haven't talked about this off air before.
Yeah.
The one cool thing about that is you still get these build aspects where you are building your character. You are increasing your modifiers as you level up, and you can do all of these other special things during, you know, the gameplay and in combat and all of this other stuff. You can get better weapons, which, you know, builders like, modifiers like, you know, like the guys that really get into that stuff. But you always, it's really easy to keep the threat there. You don't want a nat 1. You never want a nat 1. No matter how much you stack it, you don't want a nat 1. But at the same time, when you start rolling high, you get that still like impact of, that is what I've been doing with this character. That's why I put my numbers into this character.
Yeah, what's funny about the game, in my opinion, from a game master, if I could just say an anecdote, is just to keep myself from going into the narcissist too far, but is I love that the most heartbroken I've seen a player playing this game are not the times that they roll natural ones, which is funny because those are the times when they're probably about to die just because of the sheer amount of damage coming at them. It's usually when they roll, because there's no critical success in this game, you're just trying to roll high. It's usually when they roll like a 19 and the bad guys roll a 19. And that's the most heartbreaking the players are, because they're like, yeah, this is going to be big damage, and then the orc rolls a 19, and it's like, no! And then they'll like kill the orc on a roll of 8 because the orc rolled a 1. It's kind of crazy when you think about the variation on the attacks and defense. On the build aspect, when I started to do this, and I am very proud of this system. I keep making jokes about being a narcissist, but this system is... I've worked on a lot of systems, and I have tried to publish a lot of systems, and I would have to say this is the most me a system could be. And I didn't mean to rhyme that, but it just is. It's one of those things that, like, this is exactly what... If I was going to go buy a game, this is what I would buy. The build aspect is coming from a point of view of, you know, Phil Billy. He's a friend of mine. He's also on Astral Drive. He is very into the numbers, and It doesn't make him a bad role player by any stretch of the imagination, and you can
No,
second me on that. But
hundred percent.
he really likes to crunch numbers and maximize his build. And one thing I realized is, as much as I loved Fate Core, like reading Fate Core and looking at Fate Core and other games like that are very role play heavy and less on the numbers, they kind of miss out on that like statistical build option. They tend to be all about the role playing, and then like I think Phil could have fun playing Fate. I don't think it would ever be his favorite game because he never gets to crunch those numbers, you know? So I
Right.
wanted kind of something along the lines of a Fate Core where it's very role play heavy in its production, and rules light, but it still has that ability to numbers crunch and allow you to kind of really get excited about that. I mean, not to go
Yeah.
too far into the numbers, but basically what you do in this game is every stat or skill you have at a 3 or above gives you a perk, and the perk is some sort of special ability. Some allow you to extra attack, some allow you to counter attack, some allow you to stealth attack better, some allow you to read people. Others are really cool that allow you to ask the game master 3 questions and they've got to answer them honestly. There is one of the big ones that I like about this is as you get more skills, you get to kind of put those builds together and synergize, and it all works with something called momentum, which you gain by accomplishing things. So the more, which that's not an old idea. There's a lot of games that use momentum or something like it in that, but basically, as you accomplish tasks or hit more, you gain momentum, which allows you to manipulate dice rolls and use your perks and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's also that momentum aspect also kind of inspires the player to take risks
Yeah,
and do a little bit more. Take those challenges, use their
yeah,
skills because there's a reward, a big reward if
yeah.
they succeed.
Yeah, and it's really fun to watch people do stuff with momentum and see what they can do. And some of the powers, some of the perks are just so like fun. Like that's one of the things that I tried to keep to with the perks is that all the perks are fun in some way. You know, they don't
Yeah.
just like give you a static modification. Some of them do, but like a lot of them are very like, okay, so you have this perk, right? This is what you can do. You know, the one that I like the most is there's two of them for I think it's one of them's for perception, one of them's for intelligence. One of them's cold read, which allows you to tell if somebody's telling the truth or not. You can like I think it's like spend a momentum when you hear somebody saying something and you get to it's like a lie detector. That I thought was really fun for role playing stuff. And then the deduction, which is you can ask up to 3 questions per session. They have to be yes or no questions, and the game master has to answer honestly. I think like stuff like that is just really fun. There's a charisma based one that Phil took that I really like called Companion, which basically just means you've got a pet or a bodyguard or something that is always with you, helping you fight.
Yeah. And that's fun.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
just like everybody. That could be anything in any world. That could be anything for any character. If a character's bringing that to the table, like if they wrote their character with
yeah,
that particular perk in, they can be like
yeah,
a ranger. They could be a I don't know like a it could have a robot buddy or something.
yeah.
It could be anything.
Yeah, for Phil, it's pickles. Uh, for other people, it's bodyguards. Yeah, I really like that. I think that the other thing, it's really easy to add perks like that. In your own setting,
Right.
your own world, stuff like that. I'm really excited now that the system's out to make worlds for it, because I think it's going to be really fun to add rules to the game.
Yeah, and that's one of the other things I really wanted to really dive into. Like this
Sure.
thing is a scaffolding
Yeah.
for a lot of different genres. Any sort of genre
Yeah,
you want to
anything.
put on here, you can put it.
Yeah.
It's also a scaffolding for expanding the rules and homebrewers. You're a homebrewer. I'm a homebrewer. We know this game is this hobby's full of homebrewers.
Yeah.
Um, and this is a perfect game for both that the homebrewer that likes to make their settings, the homebrewer that likes to make rules and expand upon it for their setting. And this system really lends itself well for that. And I wanted to ask you a little bit. So when you envision somebody picking this game up, they're sitting there, they're like, okay, this is the rule system. I have this story in mind. I want to make a perk that fits in this wild setting. I'm doing, a He-Man-esque sort of like cyberpunk world kind of thing. Um, what would you tell them about like how to create perks for that kind of for not necessarily that kind of, but how would you suggest they go about starting to think about their perks, which is such an important part of the game?
Yeah, perks are an important part of the game. I think the most important thing you have to remember when you're creating a world, in my opinion, is symmetry. And there are other games that don't follow this rule, but I'm kind of crazy about it, almost OCD about it. So, like, if I have a certain number of strength skills, there will be that exact same number of agility skills and charisma skills and endurance skills. And the same with perks, mainly because if you have a player, and this kind of goes to the build aspect, if you have a player who's looking at a character sheet and he's going, I want to make a build for this character, I want to get into the number crunching, and he sees that endurance has 2 less perks than every other thing out there, he's not going to stack endurance because he doesn't need to. So you're gonna kind of isolate your endurance builds. So I would say if you're making a perk, if you're making a skill for the game, something along those lines, have parity, have some sort of symmetry to the point where, like, if one place gets a perk, everybody gets a perk. You know what I mean? And you've got to come up with those. So you're not making 1 perk, you're making 5 perks, really. You don't have to do that as a game master. I'm not saying you have to. This game's very easy for it. But I think when making perks, you just want to try and use your best judgment and keep it grounded in reality. If it's something that's really badass, make them spend momentum or put a limit on it. You know what I mean? I also think that when you're making a perk, try and be more fun with it. Don't take the easy way out. The easy way is they're going to get a plus something to their attack. Yeah, that's boring. Like, have some sort of real trickiness to it. And that's where this game really shines, because the boring stuff is already in the game. It's real simple, easy math. So go ahead and get crazy with the perks. That's where you get to have all your fun and get crazy. You know?
And I think that's where your players are going to have a lot of fun too, because that you can use perks in so many weird and different ways. Like, I just pulled out in a couple of games ago in Astral Drive linguistic.
Yes. Well, that's a skill.
That's a skill. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. I would love to talk about the skills in my game, because I feel like my skills are bending into the narcissism a little bit, but I feel like the skills in my game work differently from just about every other game out there. Not maybe statistically, but the way they're supposed to be practiced is very different.
Okay, what was your philosophy when coming up with these skills? How did you craft them?
The skills were really hard in this game. They were the hardest part of this game. If you'll remember, when we first started playing Astral Drive, the skill system was completely different a couple of times. I had to revamp it because it just wasn't what I liked. Everything was so tight everywhere else, and then you had this skill system where just, like, any skill was a thing. So, like, what are you writing down? What's coming? Like... So what I did with the skill system, the other thing about the skill system, it all functions into the momentum system. And one thing I really wanted to do, and this is kind of the aspect of furthering the role-playing, which is something I'm very much about. We've been talking about the nuts and bolts of the game. But, like, one of the things about this game that I like is it makes players use their skills to role-play. Which, in a lot of ways, when you play other games, it's the other way around. You role-play to get a skill roll, or you role play to get the game master to allow you a chance to do something. With this, it's the other way around. The game master is very much not supposed to give you skill checks. They're only supposed to give you skill checks when you are absolutely reacting to something, when it almost like in a saving throw sort of situation, like you're about to fall down a trapdoor or something.
Yeah.
Instead, the player is supposed to be in a situation where they want to do something and they have to look at their character sheet, see their skills, and go, I want to make this skill roll. And then you're like, okay, make the skill roll. Then the skill roll happens. Then you go, let's role play it. Like the idea behind it is much more an improv prompt than the result of the improv. You know what I mean? One of the
Yeah.
things, let's use the example of one of the coolest uses of skills so far was your use of linguistics. To go off all of this, to kind of further all of this, the skills in the game, there's only 5 base skills, which feel free to add to the point where I've added spots on the character sheet for you guys to add your own skills if you deem them as game masters. But those skills are very wide ranging and deep. Okay, so like ranged combat is a skill that covers everything: bows, revolvers, rifles. And you're probably thinking to yourself, I don't understand how that would cover that. The idea is it's not necessarily your skill in that. While it does give you a bonus because the more about that thing you would be better at, it's actually your depth of knowledge on the subject. So like, let's say, Johnny example has been raised shooting a 6-shooter with his dad. He'd go out the back, shoot a 6-shooter with his dad every so often. So he'd have like a 1 in ranged, and he'd be very good at firearms. And this is something that actually boosts the role playing. Anytime Johnny example would come across a new firearm, he would have to make a knowledge roll using his firearms to see if he has the knowledge of able to use the weapon. Otherwise, he can't because it's too further. Whereas somebody with a ranged of 5 knows every weapon instinctually just by picking it up, whether it's a bow or an arrow, because they've just all ranged they're covered on.
Right.
So the idea is it's kind of almost like a role-playing tactic to you, and that enters into the example, which is the linguistics that you used in the game. You guys can see this on stream. They were in a situation where they were kind of in enemy territory, and the one guy had told him not to talk, and he got in a situation where he had to talk, and I did not give him a roll. I didn't do anything. He was just like, Zach, what I'd like to do is I'd like to use my linguistics. I have a linguistics skill. I'd like to use my linguistics skill to attempt to mimic their accent now that I've heard it. And that's the reverse. Is another game somebody would give you that role, right? Like a game master would hand that to you. Whereas in this, you have to go, this is how I think my character would handle it. He has this stat, and then you have to say it to me. So much so that you don't gain momentum off anything reactive or defensive. So if the game master is just giving you the check, you don't get momentum. You only gain momentum points when you are the one who's like, I want to do this thing, which makes the players interact with the story more, which that was something big for me when I finally kind of came to the decision of how to do skills. Is I wanted the skills to force the players, like I want them to work on the nuts and bolts, but I wanted to force you to role play. And that's the idea. I want the actual numbers of it to bring you in more, not take you out more. A lot of the more complicated games, you end up spending a lot of time like doing numbers in your head, and that's I talked about it on some other streams where it's like the gamification of TTRPGs, where they start to feel more and more like video games just done on pens and paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted it to be the opposite. Instead of taking you out and making you think above the character, I want you to think in the character. I want you to think with what the character's tools are. And so if you're thinking in a numbers basis, so then what happened is you did that, and you succeeded, and I was like, all right, you succeed, let's role play the scene now, because we know how it kind of turns out. So it's almost a little bit reverse with the skills, which I really enjoy about it.
Yeah. I definitely get that. And to like sort of like look a little bit at that at another angle from the player's perspective, from where I'm coming from, and I'm seeing this as a skill, but I'm also seeing my character, and this
Right.
is kind of keeping me in not just my actions in character, not just seeing me in character, but
Right.
sort of subconsciously, I'm becoming more in tune with my character. I'm
Right.
making decisions my character would make
Right.
because I'm looking for those avenues that like I know my character's good at,
Yeah.
linguistics or sneaking around, so he's going to do sneaky stuff, or if he's more of like the charge right in type, all right, he's going to be able to charge right in and just bust in
Right.
there. How is he going to do
Right.
this? What he's got this skill that lets him do that. I'm going to use it. I got it. This is how we do it. And then you can just really lean into
Yeah.
that moment, that crazy epic
Mm-hmm.
moment where that character charges in.
Yeah, yeah, I really am proud of this skill system. It's not as flashy as the perk system or necessarily as fun, but the skills as a game master, you know what I mean? I'm very
Yeah.
proud of how skills came out when they're used correctly. And even I was having a hard time with it at first because I'm just used to like making people roll dice. That's what I'm used to do. At Game Master, that's what you do. You make people roll dice, right? Like that's your job. But in this, you really don't want to make people roll. When you are making people roll, you're literally making it harder for them to do things as a character. You have to let them come to that, because if you don't let them come to that, they're not earning momentum. They're not gaining experience points at the end of the game. They're not able to manipulate their rolls later on. They're not able to use their perks. It's taking the fun out of it. So you have to actually kind of let them get to that. And I was very proud of that system. Honestly, it's one of my favorite systems right there. I would say if you're a home brewer coming at it too with skills, again, I like the symmetry. Whether or not you decide to go with the symmetry, just make sure that whatever your skill is, it's huge and wide sweeping. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you want that like huge depth. Don't make any skill specialization in this game, because the points are real low, they're real number. Just make it covered by something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, the other cool thing that a lot of other systems do, but this system does, and expands upon why it works so well, is that you can use those your base stat scores on multiple skills. Whereas in other games, like if you were like in D&D, for instance, if you're a fighter, your strength is pretty much everything that your character is using, right?
Mm-hmm.
For combat, for all of their skills are going to be focused on that
Strength.
strength
Right.
and as a base. But in this one, like you were saying with the example with the gun, you're gonna need to use your intelligence modifier plus your skill
To
at
know if
times,
you
not
can use them.
just
Yeah.
exactly,
So,
or to fix one maybe. If you're
yeah.
trying to tinker it back together, you're like, okay, I really
Mm-hmm.
know guns. Maybe I can put this back together,
Yeah.
and then you get that moment where you're like, okay, I think I got it. And
Yeah.
if they succeed, awesome, it's a great epic moment. If they don't, it's like a heartbreak moment for
Yeah.
that character. Either way, it's a moment that your players are gonna remember.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that one of the things that like in the whole process of the skill roll thing, when you like ask to do a skill roll, that's where the game master comes in. Then he goes, okay, what stat is this skill gonna line up with, and it's exactly what you said. It's like, okay, well, I've got ranged, or the linguistics thing. Linguistics can be used with anything too, in a weird way. So like your game master then gets to go, okay, well, I think this is a perception stat, so it's going to be perception plus your linguistics. It's almost like the player's picking the stat and the game master's picking the I'm sorry, player's picking the skill, game master's picking the stat. And I
Right,
think that
yeah.
it makes any combination. The stats, the skills are all connected to a stat, specifically for the purposes of gaining perks, which are all stat specific. But other than that, you can use any strength stat skill with any stat on the board. Like if you were trying to figure out the best way to lift a weight as a bodybuilder, you would be using intelligence or perception, not necessarily the strength stat. You'd be using your build skill, but you wouldn't be using You know what I mean? Your strength score to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Like, how can I get my leverage underneath this
Right,
big boulder? Like,
right. I think,
I'm a Hulk. I can
yeah,
do that.
I'm glad you pointed that out. I'm very proud of that. I think you look at games like your example was like D&D. It's a very party based system, so they want it to be like you're a strength guy, so you do the strength stuff. Because that's when your character is going to be used. I was trying to think of single mod from a standpoint of, is this going to be fun for one person to play with one game master? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Can you play it with that? But can you also play it in a party? And that's why I was trying to keep this system as versatile and kind of like on its toes as it possibly could be.
And it can, like you said, like we're talking everything we've said right now works really solidly for the single like player mindset. But if you're looking at the whole table as a group, the diversity in skills, perks, and the like, and how your stats can end up being delivered to the individual characters offers um plenty of diverse characters at the table. So you don't
Yeah,
necessarily, it's very easy to not have like identical characters. In fact,
yeah,
I'd say it's pretty hard to end up getting with
yeah.
identical characters.
Well,
At
even
a,
when you
a
have the jack of all trade characters, you're still not going to have enough points to have everything. You're going to be like, I'm good at fighting, kinda, and I'm also good at rogue stuff, kinda. And then you will have
Yeah.
those characters who like, even Astral Drive. I would say Alfred is pretty decent at fighting, while he's also good at a wide range of other stuff. I would say Nullus is probably the best at fighting. But
Yeah.
then you've got like Aether Diaz and Gerard, who's just all social. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
can't really function in the fight stuff. So like I think that like it leaves that wide breadth of like whatever you want to do, you can do here. And
Yeah.
and like I said, it's really like in addition to playing Astro Drive, I'm running a game every so often in the John Wick universe, which is what I showed you the character from. And I homebrewed it. I didn't want it to be basic, so I actually made a class system in that. And it was so easy and quick and fun. And again, that sounded infomercially, and I don't want it to, but it's one thing I really like about this. It's really easy to add rules to it because it's just so damn simple that it's so easy to be like, what are they missing? Okay, this. I'm going to add this, And my hope for when I'm creating the worlds for this game is every time I create a world, my mission is to add another system to it as well as just the world and setting. I kind of want to do my first setting as like a kind of big fantasy kind of ocean sort of thing, like pirates, but more than just that, like a lot of sailing and stuff. So I want to add ship to ship combat to single mod. Which I think
Cool.
is really easy. The idea behind it is single mod, just like you said, it's the scaffolding, it's the foundation, and now I'm going to build the rooms of the house on top of it. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
feel like that's one thing that's really easy with this game, because you just take the base of what it is and you go, okay, how do we do this in this game? And just keep it simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll be honest, like I've been tinkering with an idea for a
Yay.
homebrew setting that I've wanted to do for a while, just tinkering, but didn't really like have like the right system for it, and I'd have to do this and that, and some systems might be good for my setting, but they're a little bit weightier, so I had to convince people to jump into it, and then it's going to be really slow at the beginning. And my system is my setting that I wanted to do is not going to be slow. It's going to be a fast-paced setting. Essentially, my system idea was going to be Fast and the Furious,
Oh,
and single mod
I
would be
want to do
perfect for that.
cars. I love cars. I love cars so much. Mad Max. I'm a Mad Max fan. Fury Road. Seen it 1,000 times. Philbilly is actually a gearhead, man. You should talk to him about it because
Oh yeah,
he just works on cars. That's his fucking job. So like he's very into that stuff. I think that I've always wanted to do a good car system, and I think this one could definitely. That's a really cool idea.
That's because it's a fast
It's
game. You
fast.
need a
It's
fast
fast.
system for
It's
a
fast.
car game.
Yep. Yeah, it's fast. It's fast, it's easy, it's quick. I Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And honestly, anybody out there, like if you like the system and you want to create a world for the system, just contact me. I will make an agreement with you. I'll definitely take a little cut, but like I want to work with people to make systems for this game. You know, that's something that I really want to do. I'm already working with you on it on other systems that we're not going to talk about yet, but like I know that Phil Billy's already designing one, and I'm gonna offer him some sort of split, and then we could just publish it right through the single mod thing, right through Itch, which is just a phenomenal system for publishing small time stuff. And I really want it to be something, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I think this because this system lends itself so well to homebrewing. I think that that's going to be definitely a great strength for it in the future. The diversity of games that
Yeah.
you can get out of single mod, and the fact that there are going to be so many people out there. Because, like I said, you're a home brewer, I'm a home brewer.
Mm-hmm.
Every DM, GM, everywhere I've ever talked to
Yeah, they're all
likes to
homebrewers.
homebrew.
You have to. No
Yeah,
system is perfect to what you want it to be, even mine. And that's the idea going in is that if you're a game master for Vampire, you've got homebrew rules. If you're a game master for Dungeons and Dragons, you've got homebrew rules. Palladium, homebrew rules. Everybody does homebrew rules. Very few people have games that are like, this is exactly what I need at all times. Even if it's just a little add or a little tweak, something special over the top. Like you are a homebrewer if you're a game master. My thought
right.
process in making this is make it easy for them. You know, this is made for it. You're encouraged to do it. Like, have fun,
Yeah.
go nuts. Like, it's a simple, easy system. You can tweak any fucking thing in this. You know,
Yeah, yeah. It's a system made for the home brewer,
that was the idea.
which
Yeah,
it's awesome.
yeah.
It's awesome. Um, well, do you have any final thoughts you want to like project out
I
there about the game?
I just want to say thank you for doing this, man. This that like I said, guys. So it's not my idea. We got on here and he was like, "Let's do single mod," and that's a real honor to be talked to talk about this game. I mean, I know that like I'm the co-host of this show, but like Wiz, and I definitely throw ideas out there, but this is Wiz's show, and like to be honored in that way was very I appreciate it a lot.
Well, all shucks. Honestly, I'm really happy to do this. I really like this system a lot. This is it's a system that I think a lot of people could be introduced to TTRPGs in this system in a lot of different settings. It's good for this is the type of system that's good for the hobby, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you. I
and it's
appreciate
just
it.
it's fun, man. This is a fun game.
I'm
Um,
looking forward to the day where somebody offers for me to play in a single mod game. That's the real. That's my. If I feel like I'll have made it if somebody's like, "Hey, do you want to play in my single mod campaign?" Then I'll be like, "Yes, I do. Yes, I do." You know, I think that's really the dream in my opinion. I like I said, I've been doing this for 42 years. I've had a company now for about 2. We produced. This is the third game we've produced. The first 2 on drive-through games. They were kind of failures. I mean, we learned from them. So I mean, say what you say about that. But this game, I don't know, like make or break whether this is successful. This is the game that, like, if you want to know Zach as a role player, like check this game out. Like this is my like this is all the thoughts that I've ever had about games, and I'm so proud of this system. I really am.
I think you should be, man. One thing that has always struck me with this game, the entire time we've been playing it, from the earlier iterations all the way to now, through your crafting it and you tweaking it and making it precise. Um, it's one thing that you've always said about that you want out of a TTRPG. You want a sword fight to feel like a sword fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that this game feels like a sword fight. Every time I get into a sword fight, I feel like I'm like my heart's beating and I'm like, oh crap. Like what's good? Dodge. Yeah.
It definitely manufactures tension. I will give the system
it does.
that. I'll give the system that. I think every homebrew, you can ask any of my old school friends, any homebrew I've ever done has been, we could die at any second in this one. I had a mecha game I did a long time ago called Badass Metal, which is well regarded among my friends. And the big thing I did in it was I was like, look, if people were fighting in mechs, like every mech game we fought, like they were tanks. And I was like, if people were fighting in mechs, the mechs' weapons are made to destroy other mechs. They're not gonna like be hitting armor all day. So like the mechs were like space sawdust basically, and you would just carve through each other. And so many people died. It was ridiculous. It was too much, actually. I will say straight up, it was too severe on the players. But one thing it created was we had this one guy who just kept somehow surviving because I had this really brutal like table you could roll on if your mech exploded, and it was like it was something like a 1 in 6 chance that you would survive or something like that. And he kept surviving, so I literally made the entire game about him just because I was like, okay, you now have plot armor. You've survived that 5 times. You've got to have plot armor. We're just gonna make a story about you. But yeah, sorry, I went off on a tangent there. Yeah, I went off on a tangent there. But my games are always very severe, and I feel like that comes from whenever I was playing other games, I never really felt like I was almost gonna die. I will say D&D does that well. I feel like D&D does that well. Every time I take a hit in D&D, when I was playing as a kid, I was like, fuck, I'm almost dead. Like, how does anybody does a dungeon crawl? I am a fighter, and I have 12 hit points, and everything does at least 5. How the fuck does anybody get through 3 rooms of this shit, let alone an entire dungeon?
I will remind that for those, because Zach, and we, if people haven't heard, you haven't played 5e yet, which is actually a big criticism of 5e. They got away from that.
Oh, no. No. You gotta have the kill fest. You gotta have
that was for you. Was that AD&D that you were playing?
Yeah, I did play some 3rd edition. I want to say I did play a very small amount of 3rd edition before I stopped playing altogether. I will say I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 now, which is like a crash fucking course in D&D as a video game. So whatever that's based off of, I could probably play at this point. Probably 5th edition, I'm not sure, but it's still pretty severe in that one. I'm not gonna lie, I've definitely gotten my ass handed to me and had to use a bunch of revive scrolls.
Okay.
So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, every character starts with 1, and my entire party got wiped except for 1 character, but that character was stuck in a glitch. So I switched to that character, ran him back over there, revived 1, had 1 revive another while the enemy was running back over to kill me, had another revive 1, and I somehow managed to survive the fight with these, like, I don't know, I want to say they were like tree guardian things that were just, I did not expect them to just own my fucking entire party, but they did. It was because they had these things, these mud herons or something that would just explode every time you killed them, and mud would go all over everything. And it was just shoot. It was just killing me. It was just fucking killing me. But yeah, that game has given me a crash course in D&D, that's for sure, because that game does not work like a normal CRPG. It works like D&D, which was very hard for me to get used to.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Oh, so many tangents tonight. We're all over the place.
Yeah, I know. I keep going off the rails. I'm sorry, guys. I'm tired. When I'm tired, we're over here now.
It's easy. Well, should we think about writing this thing down?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Is there anything you'd want to shout out? I mean, obviously we've been shouting out Single Mod all night,
but itch.io, in the search bar, type Single Mod, and it is only $6, guys. Only $6. That's it. That's all you're spending for the entire game, and I promise you'll get your worth out of it. Other than that, we do, since this is TTRPG, I'll keep it to the TTRPG stuff. We did Sunfish Sitting There with Neil and Kayla this last Thursday. That is a slice of life role playing game where literally it's a role playing game about people just trying to get from point A to point B. It was one of the most fun sessions I've ever played. It just did not go the way it was supposed to, and it had some really, really awesome role playing in it. And almost some combat anyway, in spite of things. Other than that, every Wednesday, not this last Wednesday, but this upcoming Wednesday when you're listening to this, is Astro Drive. It's a bi-weekly show. It is really kicking off now. We had a ton of revelations in the last session. Everybody's shit is coming out in the open, and yeah. And then finally, once a month, we do probably my favorite stream. I hate to say it, but I just love it so much. TMNT and other strangeness, we stream the Palladium RPG. Myself, Wizards Respite again, Hope Child, and Philbilly all play mutant animals trying to get across country with 3 superpowered orphans and a old ex-CIA agent trucker while being attacked by all manner of things. It is just a lot of fun. Hits you in the nostalgia fields. It's that old school, like, 90s role-playing in the basement sort of feel. And the next one of that will be on November 2nd.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and for me, as always, wizardsrespite.com. I'm going to be dropping a deep dive review of Single Mod. I'm going to be going a little bit more into the nuts and bolts on that one. Not giving away the farm or anything, but I definitely wanted to drive into that a little bit more. I also try to put out and be trying to get back onto a more regular publishing schedule of my articles and dive into that. But it's always it's the TTRPG world.
Well, and everything you can watch on my channel, you can watch on his website, guys.
Yeah.
It's content for both of us. So if you're not watching it live and interacting with us on the spot, just go to wizardsrespite.com and watch it there. It gets us both of you.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that. I think we're good for tonight.
We'll see you guys later. What about next week? Are we? Do you want to tell them what we're doing next week?
Yeah, the next show we're going to be doing actually a deep dive into the itch IO versus the drive-through RPG. Which platform's better for the indie creator to really get onto?
I have been in both now quite substantially with my company. I'm very excited to get into this. And that'll be that'll be 2 weeks from today, if all goes to plan.
Yes. All right, then, everybody, good night. Keep rolling them dice, and we'll see you next time.